Welcome back, everybody, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BETSPERTS. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christenson, and as Andy mentioned, he's got the rest of the week off. He's hanging out in San Diego. He'll be watching some horses. I think you will see him in some other formats, but we gave him the mornings off so he can rest and relax and enjoy San Diego. So, joining in his steed, Mr. Matt Rooney. We welcome him back. Our guy, we're going to have more baseball. We're going to have some more hockey talk. How's it going, Matt?
I'm good. Always happy to be the call to the bullpen here. I feel like I'm the guy. Like the Braves had a bullpen game the other night. I'm the guy you call in when you need a bullpen game from one of the starters. But hopefully this one goes a little bit better than it did for the Braves the other night. Sorry, Dan.
So as usual, we'll start with just a quick recap of last night. Of course, Monday Night Football, probably the biggest event going on. The Chiefs win. I mean, how did that go for you, Matt? I had a DraftKings lineup. I think I won like $5 or $6. I had Bucker in there or whatever. It was an ugly night all around. It was, I don't know if, did you have anything on that game there? As a Survivor player, it would have been nice to see the Giants win.
I did not have much. I was debating throwing some money on some of your first touchdown props. I did not, though. I did see Kyle Rudolph. Well, he didn't score the first touchdown. Did score the Giants' first touchdown. That probably could have paid you a little. Got you a nice little payment if you
something
had
in
that
the 30s, prop. I would assume.
I caught the end of it. The Giants got. Man, they got hurt by a late game offsides call at the end again for the second time this year in prime time. That's a really tough way to end. I honestly, though, just watching the game, the Chiefs still look a little bit broken, and that late game drive, whatever you want to call that for the Giants after letting up that field goal, was one of the worst tie the game effort drives I think I've ever seen. Taking the sack, the penalties, or whatever it was, 2 sacks. Oh, that was bad. That was really bad.
Yeah, watching him take sacks like that. Again, sacks is a quarterback stat, and it was perfect. You could see it last night. He didn't have the best protection in the world, but at some point you have to feel that pressure and get rid of the stinking ball.
You got to move in the pocket. Your Bulls bet too. Your Bulls bet, that was one I had my eye on. I was watching, keeping track of that one a little bit. I was having dinner with my girlfriend last night, so I got to admit the Bulls game wasn't on the whole time. She had control of their remote for a little bit of it, but I was tracking it. I saw it was a 14-point game going into the fourth quarter. I was like, yeah, it's fine. Whatever you want to watch is fine. This one's over. And then it was not over. It was very much not over. Apparently the Bulls just can't miss in the fourth quarter.
Brown Bag Bets Bulls scored 39 points in the fourth quarter. The Celtics only put up 11. They win 128-114. It was a pretty nice night, even with Joel Embiid out. If you did follow me and take the -5, that covered anyway. It was an exciting night. Won all our bets last night in the NBA. But that Bulls win, I mean, 39-11 in the fourth quarter. Yeah, that's it was unbelievable. And you go back through today, you can see some whispers. There is turmoil, if you will, in the Celtics locker room. People are a little upset. It's, what I talked about on a lot of our NBA shows, and when we talked about some of this content, the Celtics are a team with a lot of talent, but there's just not a sense of chemistry there, a sense of rhythm. There's not anybody out there kind of driving the bus and creating energy and shots and opportunities for other guys. It's just a lot of Tatum and Brown kind of holding the ball. And Marcus Smart was not too uncomfortable to talk about that a little bit last night. But overall, a good night in the NBA. And it's always nice to see the Bulls win. So we love that.
I'm sure you probably knew this better than I did. I hadn't watched much of I knew of DeMar DeRozan, knew he was a good player coming into this year, but I hadn't watched a whole bunch of him playing basketball. People in Chicago, at least, were a little bit worried. Or is there going to be a little bit of a back and forth between him and Zach LaVine over who needs the ball a little bit more? Can they kind of coexist together? Those guys have been really good together, and I had no idea DeMar DeRozan was this good of a shooter, this good of a scorer. He's been fantastic for him this year.
Yeah, a lot of the negativity around him is that he has more of an old school game. You watch him, it's a lot of twos and jump shots and posting up. It's, in a lot of ways, it reminds you kind of like of Kobe Bryant and shooting guards like that. Obviously not to that level, but kind of that same style. And people, I think, were worried, A, about how that works in the NBA today, and B, what he was going to be like having to share the ball. But I wasn't too concerned about that. He's a consummate veteran. He was happy in Toronto to share the ball when he needed to. He went to San Antonio. I mean, that place is all about team over self. So I wasn't too worried about that. And as much as I didn't expect him to be this good, I thought he would be a nice veteran presence in that locker room. I thought he would be a good way to take some pressure off LaVine. There's another guy on the floor who can get his own shot. If LaVine is struggling at the end of the shot clock, he can turn, throw it to DeRozan, and somebody else on the floor who can kind of get something up quickly. So I was more optimistic about that move, and I think as you're watching the Bulls, the pieces are really coming together nicely. They made some good additions.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch here from Chicago. They're about the only good thing we got going right now, so it's fun to watch them.
Let's get into what's happening tonight. The World Series continues. Game 6, the Atlanta Braves, short underdogs here. The Houston Astros, short favorites. We're in Houston, right?
We are in Houston now for 6 and 7. Yeah, it was the 2-3-2 format.
Yeah, so that makes perfect sense there. Again, the total sits at 8.5. We've seen a ton of runs here. Who's pitching tonight, Matt, and how does that work out?
The Braves have Max Fried going, who's been not great his last couple starts, but he's their ace, and I think Dan would probably even agree. No matter how bad he's been the last couple times out, he's probably the guy they want to go out there with the World Series on the line here for him. Luis Garcia going for the Astros. He's going on short rest. He's been their number 2 this series. Lance McCullers not throwing. He's their number 3 when McCullers is healthy. Apparently, Dan alerted me his home road splits are quite different. He's a much better pitcher at home than on the road, which also might lead to why the Astros are a short favorite, even with a third starter on short rest. That said, I'm gonna go. I like the Braves here. I like them in this situation. I think they kind of have to go and win it. We were talking. We like the over. The Braves team total over is only 4. I like them to jump on the starter on short rest and Max Fried to finally figure it out here and put together a start to make him a Braves legend for Dan.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's again, we've talked about Dan. He's not real happy. It's a shame. He had a nice time going to Atlanta. Those pictures are real fun, but we'll see. It looks like we've got basically a coin flip game here, back and forth. It just depends whose bats get hot. So we'll see if we can get an over here or something like that.
I also have a Braves series future, so I'm a little bit optimistic for myself here. I'd like to see them close it out and give me that.
Are you thinking about hedging
money
at all at this point? Did you try to buy out of that position a little bit at all?
I should have probably looked into it before Game 5, but now it's probably too late, and it's not that big of a play for me. It was just kind of a let's have something on the series to keep it a little bit interesting. So it's not a big enough investment for me to try and hedge that. We're gonna ride it out with the Braves. If anything, I might double up on their money line tonight and try and.
I like it. Go Braves, go over. I'll probably take a Braves team total over in team solidarity. It seems like it's been a fun bet. All right, let's get into some basketball. There's less games tonight, of course, but we'll come back here, see if we can keep things going. It's always fun and always a little bit risky, but we're going to bet on the Kings tonight. Yes, the Kings, the Sacramento Kings. They will be playing the Jazz tonight. This is a really tough travel spot for the Jazz. They come home after a road trip to go right back out on the road in their next game. I believe this is a 3-4 spot for them as well. The Kings come in here rested. I think, you look at this number here, I have it closer to 6.5, 7 myself. Pretty much 7, if I was going to hang it. But you look at the rest spot, you look at all the look-ahead things here. The Kings have been playing solid basketball. This is a nice matchup for them. They have the guards with De'Aaron Fox, with Tyrese Halliburton, with Davion Mitchell to hang a little bit with, the guards on the other side, with Donovan Mitchell, with Jordan Clarkson, with Mike Conley Jr. there. It should be a pretty competitive game again, and I don't think we're going to get the best look ever in Utah again. It's always tough for teams coming home in that first home game, especially when they have to go kind of right back out the door. The number looks big to me anyway, so we take in the quantitative and qualitative, like the +9 there. And then it's finally first quarter season. We have enough data here for me to start running and looking at things. The first quarter markets, again, it's a little bit smaller, a little bit harder to find, but they're pretty much everywhere at this point. And if you poke around, the New Orleans Pelicans should be about 3.5 everywhere. And if you take your time, there's one book in regulated states that even has a 4.5. I think it's still out there. But as you look at this line tonight, the Suns are -11, heading out to -12 here. So they do a lot of these first quarter lines. It looks, pretty much like a correlation. If it's 11 or 12, we're going to see a first quarter line around 3.5 or 4. But as you start to dig in a little bit to not only some of those ratings and that correlation on how it's, not totally correct all the time, you start to look at how teams have performed this season so far. The Pelicans have been a solid first quarter team. Phoenix has been terrible. They have been behind basically in every first quarter this season. You go back and look throughout. Now, there is a little bit of hesitation here. Brandon Ingram is questionable tonight. We've got the Pelicans off 2-game rest. So I'm expecting either him or Devontae Graham to be playing here. If both of them are out, I think there is still a small edge here on this 3.5, but again, I'm expecting Ingram or Graham to be in. I have this number close to 2.5 myself. So let's go with Pelicans first quarter +3.5.
I like it. I really like that Kings +9 bet too. I've been I watched the Kings semi closely the last few years, not as much this year, but I like that Kings +9.
And now it's time for something I know even less about than baseball. Hockey, it's played on ice. They use sticks, and there's some lines. That's pretty much about as far as it goes.
You know
But
what?
that said, I know this
That's
Connor
a pretty
McDavid fellow
good.
is pretty good.
That's a pretty good basic understanding. We don't have Connor McDavid in our bets tonight. We did last night though on my blog. I wasn't the greatest night for me picking, but it went 1-2. But the one we did get right was Connor McDavid. And the Oilers to cover the 1.5. They did that, and that's usually a good bet. Just betting Connor McDavid's team to score a lot and him to score a lot. If you do that every game, you're probably going to end up in the black for the year.
No matter
But
what, you should bet more Connor McDavid to win the Hart Trophy.
You know what? At this point, if you can get it anywhere under over -200, just hop on that because it's probably a lot.
Oh, you could do better than that. There's plus numbers out there. But
Take
you got a big
plus
slate
numbers.
here. I see quite a large menu. Let's see how you do here for a bounce back. And I like what you're doing there at the bottom. This is kind of fun. What do we got?
The top two were my original picks for the night. Those were two that I really liked. And then I in the past I've done some. Well, let's find some 1.5 parlays that pay us pretty big, and we'll see if you can hit on a 4-teamer. And I've done it a decent amount of times. You get lucky, and I like the first two because of you went into some deep dive analytics and on your basketball numbers and had some backed up advanced stats to talk about them. I talked about it on Friday. With my hockey betting theory is good teams over bad teams. Just take the puck line. It's going to hit a good amount of times, especially in finding that plus number. And we have it in those first two games. The Flyers are, I believe, 5-3, 6-3 this year. They're off to a pretty good start. The Coyotes are, as we talked about on Friday, very bad. But I gave out, I believe, the Capitals -1.5 on the under in that game, and I think the Capitals did. I believe that was a 3-1 final, so both of those hit. Fade the Coyotes; they're not good. The Flyers are at home; they're a pretty good team. Getting a plus number on the -1.5, I'm comfortable with riding with that. Same thing next with the Wild. The Wild are a very good team this year, very highly thought of. They're a team that's going to compete in the Central Division all season long. The Senators are not. They won a couple games early on, but they just got smoked by the Blackhawks last night. That was the Blackhawks' first win of the year. Ottawa was on a back-to-back. They're traveling, going to have some tired legs. I'm going to take the good team that's fresh over the bad team on the second end of a back-to-back there. Then I started looking for some good value on some -1.5s. Predators have been okay this year. They've been better their last couple games, but nothing special. They're going into a really tough place to play in Calgary. The Flames are 6-1-1 this year. They're scoring a whole lot of goals, so I'm going to take them minus the 1.5 at home because I think there's some value there. And the last one, I decided to go on the alt line route here because I for the life of me, other than the fact they played about a week ago in Montreal, and Montreal, I believe, won 5 or 6-1. It was a real clunker for the Red Wings. Since that spot, the Red Wings have played some pretty darn good hockey. I believe they're 3-2 since then, with a couple tough luck losses against some pretty good teams. One in overtime against the Panthers, and I believe the other was a late game loss to the Maple Leafs. So they're playing good teams well. They're beating some bad teams. They're a much better team than I think the line is giving credit for. So I think there's some value there to get them at plus 320, laying the 1.5 against a Montreal team who's coming home after a 4-game road trip. And especially in the NHL, you tend to see a lot of teams lay a little bit of an egg in that first game back because they do get a little bit complacent. So I'm not to mention Montreal's 2-8 this year, and I believe they've lost 4 in a row. So I'm going to lay that 1.5 with Detroit, who's playing really good hockey lately, at plus 320, paying out over 3-1. I like those chances a lot. And then you put it all together in a parlay, it pays you close to plus 5,000. So why not? Why not roll the dice on that one? I think I've already placed the bet myself, and I'm ready to roll with it.
And you can even, someone may or may not want to do some round robins like I just did. But I like it. I like the overall idea here, what you're doing, selling out, you're selling, right? By laying 1.5 instead of the money line, you're selling, which is generally a good idea. Of course, you got to go back through and do the math, like you said, to kind of figure all those numbers out. But in general, it's a good idea to sell. I like what you're talking about there. I always love backing my Flyers. So I'm in here for a little hockey madness.
It's always fun too in those minus 1.5s if your team has the 1-goal lead in the end, trying to wait out the empty netter and see if you can sneak one in there at the end. There's not much better of a feeling than when your team gets one, it dumps one all the way down the ice and it kind of trickles in and you cover that 1.5. But I'm looking forward to this one. Let's hope it hits. If it hits tomorrow, maybe I quit the job and I'll be rich and I don't have to do this anymore.
That would be a
Just kidding.
shame because then we'd have to find somebody. You have to show up and host tomorrow. You're not allowed to quit.
Okay,
All right.
fine. I'll show up
At
with
least you
some
got to give us
champagne.
2 weeks, right? That's
Fair
fair.
enough.
But I like this quite a bit. That'll be good to have the Flyers game on. We'll see how that goes. I wonder if I can get some cheap Flyers tickets. There's a thought. Next up, of course, it wouldn't be a show without some tennis. We've
Have
got
to
a
have
couple
tennis.
names here. One we talked about yesterday. Again, there's not any major WTA tournaments this week, so you got to poke around a little bit. Check your books. Most of the good players are playing in what used to be the Fed Cup, what's now called the Billie Jean King tournament. It's kind of a country style tournament. I don't want to call it the World Cup of tennis because it's nowhere close on that kind of level. But countries get together, they put teams and blah blah blah. But we do have some picks here. The younger players, some of the lower level players are still different players. One we talked about yesterday. Again, this is one it's kind of a hard spot to find. It's listed different ways at books. It's called a WTA 125K or a Challenger tournament. Look for Midland. And you should be able to find Reese Brantmeyer, one of our favorite young players, has cashed for us a couple times as a big underdog. And again, here it goes against Katie McNally, where I look at 2 players here, and another one of them is in great form, but I looked at kind of the losses. I'm a little more heartened by Brantmeyer's losses than what I've seen from McNally lately. Overall, she's had a much better season, and it's such a huge number. Again, as I go through and try to tweak things, I can't get this less than 3-1. I have this close to plus 225, somewhere in that range. Again, McNally, a good player. She's in her home country where she generally does well in some of these smaller events, but it's just too big of a number. So happy to take Brantmeyer. And the second one's going to be a little tougher to find. This is only, again, you got to have a few different outs. This is at some regulated places, so you should be able to find it. But ITF W60, it's probably W60 France, also is in Nantes. But look for Océane Dodin, -2 games, -2.5 games. We're seeing she's playing countrywoman Chloe Paquette. Paquette getting a lot of respect in the market, having won back-to-back titles at lower levels coming into this event. This is her first match, though, and at this point, she should start to be experiencing some fatigue. She'll also be indoors, where Dodin here is really great. You go back and look at some of her stats. She's had a nice season on hard courts, great server, big hitter. But once you start to go and look how she's done indoors, where you kind of take wind and things like that outside of the calculation, where she's really can kind of hit her serve comfortably, she's been fantastic. So happy to play -2, -2.5. If you only have a money line there, anything -150 or better is fine, but you should be able to find a game spread. So 2 looks in tennis here for us as we continue to cover as many sports as possible. What are we up to now? Like 5? And now we have MACTION.
We do. I
love
couldn't pass
MACTION.
up on. I could not pass up on an opportunity to put.
It's one of my
bet
favorite
MACTION.
things in betting that everyone randomly knows about the MAC because of MACTION. Like, way to go, whoever in the MAC figured out we need to start playing
Genius.
football on random nights during the week because that's how we're going to get people to watch. And we got MACTION, baby. This is our first MACTION of the year?
This is our first MACTION of the year, and I like before MACTION had started a few years back. I didn't really pay too much attention to the MAC because why would you? But now, at least early on in seasons, I am keeping an eye on some teams. I'm seeing who's winning games, who's playing who tough, because I know once November rolls around, I'm going to need to know who's going to be covering spreads, who the good teams are. And while I don't think I have as good of an understanding of that as producer Dan, I think I have at least a general idea. So I do have some action picks here. The first matchup is Ball State at Akron. I was talking about it with Dan earlier this morning. We were getting the picks. MACTION to me is obviously about the good teams, but a lot of times there's some really, really bad teams at the bottom of the MAC, and Akron has been one of those for a while. Ball State has had an up and down year, a little bit of a disappointing year for them. They came in with some high expectations that they haven't quite lived up to after the MAC title game appearance last year. But I'm going to take their team total over 38.5. Pretty good value against a very, very bad Akron defense. I believe they're bottom 10 or so in the country. That's really more of a fade Akron play. Even though they're at home, they're a very, very bad football team. Ohio and Miami, Ohio. When I think of MACTION, this is the matchup I always think of. I feel like
Miami of Ohio is the MAC.
Miami of Ohio at
Miami
Ohio.
of Ohio.
I feel like it's on every Tuesday night during MAC. You can't convince me otherwise. They play every Tuesday night when MACTION rolls around. But Ohio's off to a rough, or is having a rough year. We can't say off to a start anymore. Wow, there's only 4 weeks left. That makes me sad. They're 1-7 this year, but they've played some really, really tight games, especially in the MAC. They're at home against a Miami, Ohio team that is up at the top of the conference. I think they're second only to Kent State. So they're competing for a MAC championship. Miami's probably going to win the game outright, but Ohio has been really close this year in a lot of games. They always play. This game always seems to be a close rivalry game. They're at home. And in all honesty, with MACtion, I'm just so used to betting on Ohio because I've been doing it for so long. I can't get through my brain that they're 1-7 this year. Part of me just sees Miami of Ohio on a Tuesday night. I'm sorry, Ohio on Tuesday night, and I want to bet them. But I really do like them as home dogs over a touchdown. They've been better than their record suggests this year, and as good as Miami of Ohio is, their games have also been closer games. They're not winning a whole lot of blowouts. So I'm going to take Ohio there plus the 7.5. And Toledo against Eastern Michigan. Toledo's been pretty good this year. They're 4-4, but they played some good teams pretty tough. They went into Notre Dame Stadium, played them very tough. I remember we were as a team in Vegas for that, and I was convinced Toledo was about to beat Notre Dame. Thankfully, they didn't. They played, I believe it was Iowa, pretty tough as well. Eastern Michigan has been, I believe they're 5-3 this year. Toledo's 4-4. I don't know a ton about Eastern Michigan. This is more of I'm backing the home team, who I've seen play a couple times this year against some pretty good teams, laying only the 8.5. I think I'm comfortable riding with Toledo. This for me is going to be a lot like Andy's. If you remember in the summer, Andy picked every Euro matchup on Brown Bag Bets. I'm going to pick all the MACtion. I'm going to have a pick for every MACtion game, whether it's on Brown Bag Bet shows I'm on the blog. I'm going to do my best and see what I can do here. See if I can replicate Andy's 500 record in the Euros, picking something he doesn't know all that much about. I'm going to see if I can replicate that here with MACtion. But Dan also has on the website who knows more about MACtion than I do. He's got a prize picks entry. So get up there. The blog is on the site now. I'll make sure it's up on the carousel pin there. So if you want to bet some MACtion tonight, bet some prize picks entries. Check out Dan's, use promo code BBB or BETSPERTS, whichever one of ours you want to use that we promote. You'll get 100% deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit. So go ahead and then make some prize picks plays on MACtion.
I love it. You get some free money. We got some MACtion. That's pretty good. I see here in the chat there, Nick Holt says Kent State tomorrow night. I assume that's football.
Kent State is the class of the MAC right now, I believe.
I just know them as the former home of Antonio Gates.
That's true.
It's a good basketball team. They're fun for a couple of years. All right, Maddie, thank you very much. Anything else for the people here before we put a wrap on the Tuesday show?
Good luck, Dan. Let's get you a World Series. Let's make tomorrow.
Come on, Braves. Do it for the kids. Do it for Dan.
Dan's going to win a World Series. I'm going to win a plus 5,000 parlay. It's going to be a great day on Wednesday's Brown Bag Bets.
We'll see you tomorrow.